his children. I think he has 3 children. I think they're up in Oneonta, Cooperstown area,
Oh,
New
really?
York. I happen to be going there next week. So we had a nice conversation, but a nice young man.
Good. Yeah, I like Andrew.
I was just telling Matt that I had to rely upon Harlan for my de minimis. I even won a hat.
Oh, nice.
But I did tell him I would have preferred that he invited somebody else because I have the privilege of playing there whenever I want. So why not invite somebody that would really.
All right, it's 7:00 p.m. It is the appointed time for our July 9th, 2018 Aleppo workshop meeting. I call this meeting to order. Let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Could we have a roll call, please?
President Dover?
Present.
Vice President Jones?
Present.
Commissioner Williams?
Present.
Commissioner Dara is absent, and Commissioner DePlaga?
Present.
And Solicitor Lovato?
Here.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
When I say everybody, I include our 2 members of the public who are here tonight. Thank you for coming out tonight. Always love to have you on summer evenings where you certainly have other things you want to be doing, but thank you for coming in tonight. Before we begin, let me remind you that this meeting, like all Aleppo Township meetings, is recorded and streamed to the internet. That means that people could watch live at any point. They could tune in right now. There's nobody viewing right now, but at any time they could jump in without further announcement. It also means that when the meeting is finished at the end of the evening, the meeting automatically loads to YouTube, and it stays on YouTube where it's accessible by everyone, everywhere in the world, forever. So watch what you say, because you can't take it back, and you can't make it better later if it's not what you wanted to say. All right, with that formality out of the way, I will entertain a motion to approve the June 18th, 2018 legislative meeting minutes.
I move to approve the June 18th, 2018 legislative meeting minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next, we have old business, street opening ordinance. We talked about this last month. There's a proposed motion in the packet.
There's a draft.
Or draft ordinance. Yep.
It's the same one you received last month. I did look through it and just have a few little changes, like I have to add ordinance numbers for hours. But if when we talked about it last month, the board wanted to review it and then propose adopting it in August. So if you're ready for me to advertise this for adoption in August.
Have we had comments back from Harlan or Chris?
Harlan drafted it.
Oh, he did draft it. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Sorry, I thought it was the other one.
So what it is it's a stricter rules on when people cut our streets open, for whether they're putting in a driveway, whether it's a utility company replacing a section of line, either for an emergency break or for a planned upgrade. It spells out the rules that those people who cut open the streets have to follow in order to put the streets back together. So they can't just put a little cold patch in it and leave it forever. They have to follow the rules.
Did we have a prior on the books ordinance?
Tough to tell. I looked it up on the E-code, and it was now that things are codified like that, it's hard to find the specific full text of the ordinance. So I will have to investigate that before we advertise. just so I can match up whether or not we're repealing one or whether we're kind of starting fresh.
All right, so do we have a motion we want to consider for next week? Well, what's your motion? Also move. Tell me what you want it to be here.
Just on the streets.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be just a motion to advertise for
Yeah, motion to advertise the,
street opening ordinance.
I don't know what,
Street opening ordinance. As submitted.
Is that how we want it?
Yeah.
All right, so there is a motion to advertise the street opening ordinance as submitted. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
I think I need more time to review this. Sorry.
That's okay, because I'm going to move to defer for 1 week.
Does that need a second?
Yes.
I second.
Okay. So the main motion is a motion to advertise the street opening ordinance as submitted. There's a subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week? All right, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion carries. We will have that on the agenda next week. Very good. The next item on our agenda is Swickley Borough Lot on Glen Mitchell Road. When last we visited this thorny fan favorite issue, it's like going to a Leonard Skinner concert, playing Freebird. We had given them until June 30th. And, well, we had sent them an email saying, thank you for the work that you've done so far. It seems close. If you agree to having it done by June 30th, we will hold off on sending a violation, basically. Kevin Flannery wrote back and agreed to having it done by June 30th. In the interim, about 6 weeks ago, I sent him an email saying, hey, June 30th is coming up. Doesn't look better, it looks worse. Gwen, I believe you also sent him an email about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
A week and a half ago that said, just reminding you that the June 30th deadline is coming.
And we've not heard back from him.
what's it look like?
Well, that's a tough question, of course, because the leaves are back on the trees now.
Yeah, you can't see.
Can't
No
see.
one's walked back there.
Well, we're technically not allowed to walk back there. It's trespassing.
Yeah. I mean, you can walk the perimeter, right? All private lands around it.
Yeah.
I did see it from the street, and it just looked unsecured to me, and I saw debris in there. But then since then, like you're right, you can't see it as well because there's been a lot more rain. That's about a month ago.
What would the submission of a violation mean? Or what form would it take?
I'll defer that to Chris, even though he doesn't want to answer that question. He has to answer that question. But I would guess, I mean, why don't you let me take a swing at it? You tell me how right or wrong I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I would guess that we would, remember, we've come up before that it's not a zoning ordinance, it's a township ordinance. So we would submit a violation of a township ordinance to Judge Ford, and we would have to go present our case. They'd have, it would be turned over to the magistrate and would look like any other property owner's violation.
And that would require some evidence?
Yeah, I mean, again, our ordinance, I know Harlan has written letters that cite a couple different ordinances. But for sure, the one ordinance is pretty clear that just says click here to access our township ordinances. Look at how much use we're getting out of this one. So here it is, section 232-1. It is unlawful for any person or persons or corporation to operate or conduct a business within the township as a junk dealer, or to use or allowed to be used his, her, or its property as a junkyard, salvage yard, or other place used and maintained for the collection, storage, and disposal of used and secondhand goods and material. So, I mean, I think the way I read this,
I think that's correct.
council will
Did you
correct.
go in violation of the penalties too?
Where am I? Violation penalties.
Yeah, conviction. I think you have to get the magistrate based on.
Totally. Yeah. So to me, I read this to say, and you can parse out some of the unnecessary language, but Sewickley is allowing its property to be used for the collection, storage, or disposal of secondhand goods and materials without first obtaining a license. I mean, that's what you'd have to prove. You have to prove that it's their land, that there's secondhand goods and materials on it.
We have some photographs, we can leave it off.
We do, yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, I think Commissioner DePlaga is correct that if we went down there from the perimeter, we could probably get pictures that are sufficient to show that there's secondhand. It doesn't take a whole lot to figure that out.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I
think
think our right of way goes right up to it, doesn't it?
What's that?
Like Glen Mitchell right away, I think is public right up to it, isn't it? I mean, doesn't it just border Glen Mitchell?
Gwen, do you have a comment?
Only that the fine or the cost of the storage lot fee has been adopted. Another ordinance was adopted in the interim, so those
Mhm.
numbers are incorrect.
There's
Mhm.
1,000.
It's not the fine, though. That's the
It's-
cost of getting the license. We did not
fee
adjust
is
the
now-
fine.
Yeah, the license fee is now $1,500.
Correct.
Oh, is the fine?
I can't remember if the fine changed or not, but.
I don't think it did.
Fine, there says
I remember something about 1,000.
$250.
I think this has been dragging on too long. I don't think they have acted in good faith. I think a lack of response is indicative of that lack of good faith. And I think a formal filing, whatever that might be, is appropriate at this time, with a letter notifying Sewickley of that filing and of our hope that they will meet ASAP to discuss resolution prior to the hearing. And I don't know if that's legally accurate.
Does it meet the
It's legally understandable.
Yeah.
If it were to be licensed, do we have specific requirements in that ordinance regarding it? I mean, to me, it should be fenced, secured. I don't think, what we're allowed to be used for that. I just have that issue with it being kind of open and dangerous, maybe possible things being thrown about in there, you know what I mean? Especially kids that might wander in there, that's my issue with it.
I think it needs to come to the attention of Borough Council. And I think conversations do not necessarily come to the attention of Borough Council. And that a formal filing in whatever form that might take should come to the attention of Borough Council. And I think that's the appropriate action. I don't like no response.
Well, truth of the matter is, it is a response.
All right, so I'm here ready to take a motion.
I don't have the proper phraseology.
Well, let's work on it together.
What is the filing, Chris?
Motion to file.
Like with the magistrate. Yeah, like with the magistrate.
I move to file a complaint with the magistrate regarding Swickley Borough's violation of section.
Let's just leave it at Swickley Boroughs. Let's leave it a little broader because I do know that Harlan Swickley Boroughs operation
of
an
Unlicensed junkyard?
storage yard. Motion to file a complaint with the magistrate regarding Swickley Boroughs operation of an unlicensed storage yard.
and simultaneous to that action to communicate to the borough manager that the filing has occurred and that we request an immediate meeting to resolve the issue, or whatever language you want to use.
All right, so what we have written down here is motion to file a complaint with the magistrate regarding Swickley Borough's operation of an unlicensed storage yard, and simultaneously to communicate to the borough manager that the filing has occurred and to request an immediate meeting to resolve the issue. All right, so let me ask a couple questions here. First of all, I assume that we are directing the solicitor to file a complaint, right?
Mhm.
So can I amend this to motion to direct the solicitor to
Yes.
file a complaint? And then the meeting to resolve the issue. I mean, tell me more about what you expect to have happen there, because we've had a meeting with him before in the past, right? You and I were there, and we took a tour through there, and he showed us and said that it was all going to happen in the future.
My hope would be that the filing gives them better reason to resolve the issue. In other words, there's the sword of Damocles, and we've had chit chat. We're willing to discuss, but we've filed. So if you choose not to meet and resolve the issue, it's going to go to the courts.
Okay, and who's going to write this letter?
I think when? I think it should be very simple.
Once Harlan has filed the complaint, I'll get a copy of the complaint so I can attach it to the letter.
Yes.
And
And then I would think that you and our public works and any commissioner that you so choose should be involved in that meeting. And it's just going to be a little bit more direct than the chit chat prior.
am I writing it to the borough manager?
Yes,
Am I copying the council?
yes. I mean, this has been going on for 2 years.
It has. I know it has. I mean,
I'm tired of it.
Okay, so the motion that is on the table reads, motion to direct the Aleppo Township solicitor to file a complaint with the magistrate regarding Swickley Borough's operation of an unlicensed storage yard, and simultaneously to direct the township manager to communicate to the borough manager with a copy to the Sewickley Borough Council that the filing has occurred and to request an immediate meeting to resolve the issue.
That's a Sewickley Borough. Insert Sewickley. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add to this? You have any thoughts about any of this? You sitting there quietly. You just
No, I was looking up, but no, I think that's fine.
All right. In that instance, is there a second to this motion?
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this issue? All right. Then I make a motion to defer for 1 week.
Second.
All right. So our main motion is to direct the Aleppo Township solicitor to file a complaint with the magistrate regarding Sewickley Borough's operation of an unlicensed storage yard, and simultaneously to direct the Aleppo Township manager to communicate to the Sewickley Borough manager with a copy to the Sewickley Borough Council that the filing has occurred and to request an immediate meeting to resolve the issue. That is the main motion, which has been seconded. There is a subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week, which has also been seconded. Is there any further conversation on the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subsidiary motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. It's not 5-0. It's 4-0. All right, so the subsidiary motion carries 4-0. The main motion will be on our agenda next week. All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda, potential revisions to oil and gas ordinance. I guess I'll start this, and Vice President Jones, perhaps you can jump in. Sitting in the audience tonight is resident Tim Kelly, who is a frequent flyer at our meetings. We had the pleasure, Vice President Jones and I had the pleasure about 4 weeks ago, maybe, to attend a meeting with Doug Shields, who was the former, somebody help me out, former
City Council.
President of City Council, Pittsburgh City Council, and now reviews municipalities' ordinances with respect to oil and gas interests. And we met for a significant period of time, and Mr. Shields he had done a review of the Aleppo Township oil and gas ordinances, and he made several suggestions, all of which reflected the fact that the Aleppo Township oil and gas ordinance, which is on the books now, was originally adopted from the Bell Acres oil and gas ordinance. Right? Everybody follow that? Yeah. Bell Acres has subsequently made several revisions to their oil and gas ordinance. And if I'm correct, they reflect things such as a seismic survey ordinance, which basically addresses the tools that oil and gas industries use to determine where the pockets of gas are underground. They discuss the definitions of the setback ordinances, which are already there, but again, firm them up a little bit. They discuss, did the Bell Acres discuss new and unused uses? You don't remember, Tim. I believe they discussed new and unused uses. Anyhow, following this meeting, we asked Gwen if she could get us a copy of the revised Bell Acre ordinance, which again is what our ordinance was based on. And she's gotten that. That's in the packet tonight.
It's not.
It's not.
Samples of the two topics that you were interested in hearing about are in there, but the revised Bell Acres isn't in there, but I'll send
Which
that
is
to
what? What are the
anybody
two issues that were in there? The seismic survey?
Seismic injection wells
That's another issue, right? Injection
and
wells.
seismic testing.
And so if I'm understanding this correctly, an injection well is sort of a reverse well. The idea is that they take
Wastewater, injected down.
Right.
correct. They take unwanted fluids, which typically take the form of wastewaters, and they inject it back into the earth to sort of
Take up space.
store it somewhere. Okay, so that's the background. You know, where we go from here is the subject of a workshop meeting, which is what we're doing. So I'm open to any suggestions from anybody about where we think we should go from here.
Well, I attended the meeting with Matt and a representative from Osborne, I believe Barbara Carrier.
No, Barbara, that's right.
And Doug Shields works for a firm. He is paid to do this.
Food and Water Watch.
By Food and Water Watch. I did not sense any anti-industry bias. I did not sense any pro-industry bias. What I did understand was that the world is changing. The fracking industry is learning, communities are learning, and that our ordinance could use a bit of updating. So my recommendation would be, I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but
Well, let's do it together.
I would certainly want to utilize Doug's free advice to limit the expense, to begin the process of upgrading our existing ordinance in accordance with the upgrades that Bell Acres has made and any other appropriate adjustments that Mr. Shields might have seen in our particular ordinance. And he did say we're better than most, but we just need a little updating. And I'm going to re-emphasize, I did not hear a negative bias against the industry.
Do the boundaries of Bell Acres in any way become adjacent to the boundaries of Aleppo?
No.
Who's in between?
Squiggly, possibly Squiggly Heights, Edgeworth. I don't know how far up Bell Acres reaches.
I think it would be interesting to have any documents that those adjacent townships or boroughs have for our files.
To make sure we're all on the same page or something that might happen to them, how it would affect our municipality.
Right. I mean, they're going down and over, so that means they're under something.
Mr. Shields has reviewed numerous 50s municipalities ordinances. So I felt very comfortable that he had expertise in the industry that I do not have. And I think any information about other municipalities is readily available through him, as well as directly from the other municipalities.
I would still like to have copies here of the adjacent.
Yeah,
So
no, it's
that
good.
should a question come up,
Yeah.
we can refer to that as the fact that we did look at.
Yeah, I think,
Just broader than our boundaries.
Gwen, have you talked to Mr. Shields? Just to make your life easy, and I agree with Commissioner Williams that we should have as much information about our neighbors as possible. I think you may find access to that information easiest through Mr. Shields and direct contact, but I would start with him because he may be able to just turn it over.
All right, so Vice President Jones, I took your talking and sort of crafted it here. And I don't know, I mean, what I have written down is motion to begin the process of upgrading our existing oil and gas ordinance. Reflect the changes Bell Acre has made to its oil and gas ordinance since we used their ordinance to create our oil and gas ordinance. Is there something more concrete that you want this to be?
Yeah, I think to reflect the changes Bell Acres has made in addition to changes that Mr. Doug Shields of Food and Water Watch has recommended. But what specific action?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really,
still
Yeah, that's just a
just
statement.
homework right now.
Well, who would prepare the revised ordinance?
I assume Harlan, right?
Solicitor.
No, you're going to do that, Gwen? You saying you want to do that?
No, I'm not writing an oil and gas
Oh.
ordinance. I can write a little re-up a contract ordinance, but not that
I think
one.
this is a legitimate preliminary step.
Well, it doesn't, it's not, I mean,
Or
we're getting close.
This
Motion
is
to begin the
prior
process.
maybe we could say prior to authorizing our solicitor to proceed with the upgrade.
Well, how do we, okay, let me ask you this question. How do we carry this out?
Yeah.
What's the next step?
That's not an actionable
Right.
statement.
Motion to authorize the township manager to begin the process of accumulating the data,
Yeah,
gathering the data
of adjacent properties.
from Bell Acres, Doug Shields, and other adjacent communities to prepare for the upgrading of Aleppo Township's ordinance. I don't think this is going to be complicated. I think there's going
I
to be.
can do that without a motion. I can just
Yeah.
go
Do some
get,
homework.
that's homework. That
Okay.
doesn't need a motion, in my opinion. That's just, hey, can
I
you go
agree.
get some work?
I think the bottom line is we want to do as much work prior to turning it over to the solicitor as possible. And I think there's a good amount of information that we can use to turn over. Because again, I think this is going to be 6 paragraphs.
Would take out the motion
A
and just
six
put it,
pair.
I would take out the motion and just put in that the Aleppo Commissioner's desire to, da-da-da-da.
Well, I don't think we need to, I
Oh,
mean,
that-
Yeah, we don't need.
That's one way of taking it out.
yeah. All right. So the understanding is that Gwen will get the ordinances from
All 8 communities that surround us,
our 8 contiguous communities, and you'll talk to Doug Shields.
see if he has them to streamline that process. I already have Bell Acres, which is not adjacent, but I have it. And then what? I'll get it, and then who am I just giving it to Harlan and saying?
No. I
We'll
think
have to
you
identify.
prepared for us because again,
Right.
I think it's going to be 2 pages or less. I think the recommendations, quite frankly. I mean, I think
What about just a quick table that says, they address wells, they address
I
seismic.
think
they
our current
address-
ordinance is 26 pages,
okay, and I think that
21 pages.
I would inquire from Food and Water Watch what services they can provide. Because again, I don't want this to become a $20,000 event. Because I don't think it needs to be.
No, it does not.
And I think they can virtually draft the new ordinance for review by our solicitor.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's just gonna be components, like there's, you're gonna have a section that addresses wells, a section that addresses, fracking, a section that addresses.
That's what I'm saying about my 6 paragraphs.
And so you just make sure we have all those bullets.
Right.
Addressed, and if they're applicable, we address them and we
Right.
update, and if they don't, if you look at the other ordinances, you can identify what everybody else has, and
Yeah.
then at least develop a laundry list of
Right.
wants and needs.
Paraphrasing is good.
Okay, so Gwen, do you have an understanding of your mission?
I am going to get the ordinances from the 8 surrounding communities, and I'm going to talk to Doug Shields first, see if he has them first. Then I'm gonna ask him what services Food and Water Watch can provide. Can they draft a new ordinance to review by our solicitor? And the 3 main components of an updated ordinance are going to be whatever changes Bell Acres made, injection wells, and seismic testing.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
good?
I assume so. Doug is very knowledgeable. He'll serve you well.
Okay. Any other old business? New business. Aleppo Township Authority Board vacancy. When?
One of the fairly new board members, and I think he'd been on the board about 2 years, is moving out of the township. And so resigned his seat. So there's now another vacancy on that board.
I called Mr. Barnes. He thanked me for calling him. I told him he's on the list. And in my opinion, he's next on the list. So I would recommend that we contact Mr. Barnes and invite him to join the authority board.
Are you making a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to appoint Dr. Bill Barnes, I believe that's the name, to the authority, to the Aleppo Township Authority Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Motion is to appoint William Barnes to the Aleppo Township Authority Board. There's a second. I'll make a subsidiary motion to defer this for 1 week.
Can I amend the first one?
Please.
Don't make motions. Can we just put the term end on that? That might be easier to complete a term ending December 31st, 2020.
Good.
Okay, so the main motion is to appoint William Barnes to the Aleppo Township Authority Board for a term ending December 31st, 2020. That motion has been made and seconded. I'm making a motion to defer that main motion for 1 week.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the subsidiary motion? All right, hearing none. A vote on the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That subsidiary motion carries. That will be on our agenda next week.
Gwen, would you make sure that the authority puts that on their agenda for this month? To make sure they're informed formally.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I've let them know. I sent them a letter.
Okay, next item, vacant lots on Rockledge Drive. I will spearhead this one because this one also is an oldie and a goodie. This one might predate your time here, Commissioner
Yeah, I don't know
Plaga.
this.
I think it
Trash
predates me
collection.
too.
Predates you too. Okay, there are 3 lots on Rockledge Drive that never, for whatever reason, never got developed. How am I going to say this, recognizing that we're on the record gently? Apparently, I mean, the word around town is that at the time that they were developing the ridge, there was some disagreement about building permits between the developer and the township. Whatever. These lots never got developed. One of them is dug out. Am I saying that correctly, Gwen? Dug out?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
It kind of has it's kind of a hole
I know.
cut into the hillside.
Weeded.
All 3 of them are completely overgrown. I would say that since I started my job here on the Board of Commissioners as a Rockledge Drive resident, it is one of the things I get complaints about most frequently.
It does look good.
What's going on with these 3 lots? What's going on with these 3 lots? We've reached out to the developer. I mean, formally, informally. I think in 2017, he told, well, I shouldn't speak. May I share this, Gwen, or do you want to?
No,
In 2017, he told Gwen that he was going to build spec houses there in 2017. Then in 2018, said he'd be back for a permit in 2018. It's never happened. So similar to the lot, the Swickley lot, I mean, we just keep kicking it down the road. And I said to Gwen, I'm frustrated with this. I'm tired with this. And she said, well, what do you suggest we do? And I said, I don't know. Let's talk about it with the board. I mean, I guess I can think of, I don't think there's any way that we can make him flatten them. Again, part of the problem is that one of these is half dug out. I don't think there's any way you can get him to regrade them. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I certainly think you could, and I don't know when do you believe that the lots are a property maintenance violation for the grass and stuff?
I think they could be.
I think they could be. So I think one thing you could probably do is send the property maintenance inspector over there and ask him what he thinks and write a violation notice for the property maintenance for the grass, which probably would result in the grass getting cut. That's happened once. That has definitely happened, that we wrote a letter or something and the developer / landowner went and cut it all back. And then 2 years later, it just grows. I mean, it doesn't look good even when it's cut back because, again,
It's not a lawn, yeah, like weedy kind of.
Aren't the trees moving in?
What's that?
Aren't the trees moving in, taking residence?
Not really.
Not really.
No?
Very disturbed.
When was the last conversation with the owner?
Multiple months ago. Look that up, but probably 5 or 6 months ago. At least I haven't talked to him in a while.
Time goes by
It
quickly,
does.
but there was a time period where building permits were not allowed because of a conflict over the ownership of the road,
And that was
Rockledge.
resolved in 2011.
I'm just saying, time goes by quickly.
Yeah, but that issue has been raised.
I know. It's an old issue.
Similar to Sewickley, that we've gone down that path. That has not gotten us anywhere.
Yeah, my suspicion is that all we can do is ask for it to be approved in appearance. We can't force anybody to build, to my knowledge.
No, we can't force anybody to build.
But we can enforce codes relative to the
So
appearance.
it's not part of the ridge homeowners, like footprint, like if it's just an undeveloped lot. I just
No, they
know
don't
if it's
get-
like common area.
The lots don't get turned over until built.
Built, okay.
I can't prove that.
No,
But
I
my
think that's
suspicion is it is still privately owned and it is not the responsibility of a common area of Sewickley Heights Manor.
Okay.
Yeah, I've looked at it, I've walked it, there's some bricks, some stones, so you couldn't just have Sarver go in and whack it. It needs a little preparation before it can be cut.
I mean, I don't think you could just go whack it. I think you need to go in there with something heavier than a whacker.
Yep.
It's pretty rough.
And first you have to get all the big rocks
Yeah.
and stuff out.
Well, certainly one suggestion that has been made off calendar is that we ask the developer / landowner to come to one of these meetings, have a conversation with him rather than.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if that accomplishes anything. I don't know if we think that's a worthwhile idea. I'm just sort of, again,
Well, I would favor that because we know what it hasn't accomplished.
all right, so do I hear the board making a motion to
Do
request?
we know the property owner, Gwen?
It's my understanding that all 3 of them are owned by either Minnock Construction or Michael Minnock.
Well, remember a
Sure.
couple of years ago, the Minnock family broke everything up.
And I don't know how they broke
Can
it up
we
or which is which.
Determine who owns it, so we send the letter to the right people.
Yes, I would definitely go to the property website and
Yeah.
make sure it went to the proper organization.
And quite frankly, I think Mike would come to a meeting and he would discuss it. But I'm not sure Mike owns the property.
I would just say that every time Mike has been asked about it, he has said that he will be coming in for a building permit.
Let's bring him in.
So the motion that again, I'm just writing what I hear. Motion to request that the owner of the undeveloped lots on Rockledge Drive come to a Board of Commissioners meeting to discuss future plans for those lots.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion with respect to that motion? All right, hearing none, I will make a motion to defer this main motion for 1 week.
Second.
On the subsidiary motion, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, thank you. The main motion to request that the owner of the undeveloped lots on Rockledge Drive come to a Board of Commissioners meeting to discuss future plans for those lots will be on our agenda next week. Okay. 7C, Factor, Public Works manpower sharing with Kilbuck Township. Gwen, tell us about Public Works manpower sharing with Kilbuck Township. Why is it manpower? Why isn't it people power?
Speak up. Can't hear.
I'm gonna defer an answer on that.
So moved.
Thank you. We are renting a Vector from Char West Cog, and we agreed to that back in February. We have a week that's coming up in July. Killbuck Township is renting the Vector for the following week. They currently have only a township manager. They have no public works employees. They use contractors, just regular private contractors for all their things. And they were seeking a shared public works situation. We will be working through the COG to borrow, rent, pay for some of our staff for that week to go along and ride along with the Vector driver like they will when the Vector's here in Killbuck Township. The thought was behind this was beginnings of some kind of municipal sharing network through the COG, where the different townships that are in the COG could share strengths and borrow people for a contracted fee, not just, hey, send me a guy. And so what you have here is kind of a letter with a memo of understanding between Aleppo and Killbuck for the terms of sharing someone for this week as a trial run of the larger program through the COG of sharing services and employees for different things. This was not necessarily reviewed. It was looked at by Chris, but not, I don't know if it's like contractually reviewed. This is not a contract. This is a recap of a meeting where we talked about some terms, but this is not a contract. And the main concern that I think I understand from the solicitors was the insurance liability.
Insurance and I guess ultimately who the contract would be with. If it's with the COG, then Harley and I are less concerned, but if it's an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Killbuck, then it has to be via ordinance and be able to get that done by the end of the month. The insurance issues I do still have a lot of concerns with, especially with some of the language. I think there are questions, even though it attempts to play or put the workers' compensation onto Aleppo. I think there's some serious questions as to whether that would hold up, whether they would be like an employee under the workers' compensation of Killbuck, since I don't think Aleppo would be interested in actually controlling the work of its employee while it was working in Killbuck. I'm wrong about that, but it seemed that would be under the instruction of Killbuck. So that raises a concern for me. And I did look up some information about it. You can, under a workers' compensation policy, extend coverage, but I doubt we have those riders in place if your employee is working for another employer. I do have concerns.
The way I understand it is that, well, let me say that this was modeled on, there was a contract agreement between Avalon Borough and Killbuck Township. And for a lot of years, Killbuck didn't have their own public works. They contracted Avalon Borough workers to do their work. So that was the basis of this, that contract expired and was not renewed for whatever reason. So now Killbuck is looking elsewhere to try to find some public works assistance just on an as needed per project basis, not looking to take any of our guys for a part-time, full-time, permanent situation.
And they would pay us.
They would pay.
For our labor.
Correct. We determined.
In fact, we would make money on that.
We determined an hourly rate, taking into account of salaries, insurances, benefits, all that stuff to determine the hourly rate that Aleppo would collect per person and then also per equipment. So we have two rates. We have an hourly rate, personnel rate and an equipment rate. Again, proposed, we don't have a contract.
What does our public works department think of this?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an HR issue.
They are not opposed to this particular project, assisting with the Vector project, because they're going to have done it at our place for a week, and then they didn't have any issue with it, this particular project.
How many hours do you think this would be?
This agreement says a maximum of 24 hours in 1 week. It's a 1 week situation. So it's not even full time that week.
So would we miss those 24 hours total? 3 guys at 8 hours, something like that?
Probably one of our guys. We really only need one guy. And we have a part-time summer helper here, so we would not be stranded if we had a situation. We would have 2 here and 1 would be over.
I mean, I agree. This is a crack in the door.
Yes, it is.
And I met with.
I mean, they're going to replicate what they've been doing with Avalon.
Yeah. No, they're very open. They don't have a public works department. I met with Susan and the gentleman
John
from
Sebastian.
Kilbuck. It was a good conversation. It's really a continuation of the shared services concept. And what I had asked at that meeting was give me specific tasks that we can review. To just say sharing public works doesn't make any sense. But my first question would be the opinion of our staff and whether it prevents them from doing things here.
I mean, 24 hours is the equivalent of 3 days.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Yes, sir.
And I told them, quite frankly, that I personally am in favor of shared services. I mean, in essence, we use Ohio Township Police. We provide fire service for Swiftly Heights. I think it's an excellent concept. I think insurance, liability, all that kind of stuff is the critical issue.
Can't be worked out, though.
After the opinion of our public works.
So Chris, could you lay out our insurance options again, like treat these people as independent contractors and get insurance as like,
Well,
as if they were
my concern
working
with
through the cog?
with the proposed language, it's really 14, I think, and Kilbuck Township, the COG, and Aleppo Township agree that the employees of Aleppo Township are and shall be under the exclusive supervision and control of Aleppo Township, and Aleppo Township is responsible for any acts and omissions of such employees while working in Kilbuck Township to the same extent that they would be in Aleppo. My concern with that, I think it traces what you need to do to implicate or to trigger the workers' compensation under Aleppo's policy. I'm not sure that in reality it would hold up. If someone got injured and they wanted to sue, they would say, I mean, that contract says that, but I was under the control of Kilbuck. I was working there. And then you have questions as to whether Kilbuck has insurance for them, and whether if the employee wanted to sue Aleppo, then whether they would be protected by the workers' compensation bar.
Be surprised if it does.
Right. There can only be one employer under the Workers' Compensation Act. So that would either be Kilbuck or Aleppo, and then someone, depending on the factual circumstances, could be potentially liable for additional damages.
So I would say, number one, the first decision is to be made by our Public Works Department. Number two, that our solicitor and friends would prepare a document that protected us to the maximum at the expense of Kilbuck. If it's going to take Chris and Harlan 4 hours.
We upgrade our insurance and we pass it on as a part of our fee.
Yeah, whatever it
service.
takes, they
Right.
pay. In addition to the $45 an
Right.
hour.
I did look, and I found this article that mentioned there are additional riders for circumstances like this you could add to your policy. Curious as to whether they would only cover the workers' compensation aspect or potential issues relating to who the employer was. Well,
I'm not sure I heard the phrase that you read, but if you said that that their activities were going to be while they're in Kilbuck are going to be the same as they would be in Aleppo.
I think it said
I don't like that.
they would be, it says that they're under the exclusive supervision and control of Aleppo Township. Aleppo Township agrees to be responsible for any acts and omissions of such employees while working in Kilbuck Township to the same extent that Aleppo Township may be responsible for such acts or omissions committed within its own boundaries. I think that latter part is referring to any immunity that Aleppo might have. But I mean, I'm hesitant to say that we would want to control
I guess that
activities.
this
in
is,
Killbuck.
the activities they're going to be doing have not been a regular, normal activity in Aleppo. Is that correct?
No, because we're renting the Vector for the week before and we haven't done that before, but generally the activity that our public works staff is going to do is riding along and showing them where and perhaps handing them a shovel. It's not, my understanding when conversations with the Vector owner, not a heavy labor intensive job for our guy. It's the truck driver's going to do all the work and we're just along to say
I'm
here,
not
here,
worried
here.
about whether he has a shovel or not, because if he's injured, he's injured.
Correct.
It doesn't matter how.
Be injured falling out of the truck.
That's
Yes.
right. So I think that phrase allows a transfer.
Does the borrowed servant doctrine not get us anywhere here?
Well, I think there are three factors, and one is control. So I mean, that language is there for the purpose of keeping that with Aleppo. But I without fully understanding the project, I have a hard time seeing how Aleppo is controlling the work to be done in Killbuck.
Right.
They're not.
It's not.
Right.
They're not.
So regardless of whether that language is there or not, I think that there would be a strong argument that.
Well, that's why I took objection. I don't understand the statement.
Okay, so
From an activity standpoint, I don't understand the statement.
what do you think is the course that permits us to, whether it's, let's think in two different spheres here. Number one, what is the course that permits us to work on this shared services long term? And number two, what is the course, if any, that permits us to do this particular Vector project?
It would be probably the same, making sure that I would think that that our insurance would cover our employees working outside township. It probably does under general liability policy. I want to be sure of that. And I would also want to be sure that Killbuck does have, whether it's listed as a secondary or however we want to list it under the contract, but they have an insurance policy that potentially covers our employees.
Okay. Is that something we can find out the answers to by next week?
Sure, we can talk to them.
Yeah, you just tell me what it is I'd be asking for specifically.
Okay.
Okay. So why don't the two of you work together and try to find the answers to the insurance questions by next week? And if we can, we'll deal with this next week.
Is it fair to say that I would like Killbuck and the COG to pay for that investigation?
I think that's reasonable.
So I wouldn't proceed until I got approval from them? I mean, there's a certain setup here that could be long lasting, but I don't think
It could be
it's.
easy, if the current township manager of Killbuck is a contracted employee, meaning they might not have any workers' comp insurance at all right now.
Right.
If they don't have any employees, they probably don't
Right,
care.
but all I'm saying is I don't want to authorize us to spend $1,000 to go through the investigative process. If they want us to consider this, there's a preamble.
So we might have a timing issue for this particular project. Because
Well, I
if
think
Killbuck
it
doesn't
can
need
get
to-
done. I think it can get done quickly.
If Killbuck has to approve potential $1,500 expense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I quite frankly, I don't care what it is. I just don't think we should be at risk for the
And when you're talking
investigation.
about fees, you're talking about legal fees.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm in favor of the concept, but I don't think we should be liable we shouldn't bear the expense of the setup.
Well, the first time, of course, I would assume it would be a little bit more work, and then if it went forward, we did this again, I assume.
Yeah, we have a procedure in place.
And less, hopefully,
At
nothing.
some point.
Are you still that?
Well,
Business
Oh,
venture.
as needed basis, I don't think.
Okay, because I mean, that's how I would, this is kind of a COG pilot project.
Yeah.
Could ask the COG to do the research and contact the attorneys.
That's fine.
That's a great
Do
idea.
it that way, if they're the pivot point of this thing.
I like that even better. That makes a lot of sense.
Good.
It
So
should
why
be.
don't you reach out to Susan?
I can do that.
Okay. See what we can find out by next week.
Okay.
Let them all know that.
We'll refer them to this video also, so they can hear exactly what it is that we discussed and
What
what
we were
we're looking.
And then
deliberating.
we do use a part-time employee during the summer,
We do.
because otherwise it would beg the question, how can we afford 24 hours? Or do we have people standing around? I mean, that would beg the issue. That's not really the case.
No.
Because we have a part-time employee.
Correct.
And again, I'm in favor of the concept.
Okay, anything else? Does everybody understand the plan? Gwen's gonna talk to the COGS, the long and short, right?
Yeah.
Okay. D, stormwater ordinance grant application. Can I just tell you a story? I was driving down Beaver Street the other day. I won't tell you what municipality this was in. But I saw some guy standing there blowing leaves into the storm sewer. He had a leaf blower. He was blowing
Where was
leaves
this?
into. It was on Beaver Street. I'm not telling you what municipality it was in. And I'm telling you, I was this close to stopping my car and saying, "Hey, Aleppo Township got an MS4 waiver, but I got to tell you, you're not supposed to put anything in a storm sewer except stormwater. And if you put that stuff in there, your municipality is just going to have to factor it out." But I didn't. Okay,
A sense of adventure.
I know.
Okay.
Stormwater ordinance grant application.
Okay, so the county just recently adopted a very long worked upon stormwater ordinance, and all municipalities have, I think, 6 or 8 months or something to bring our stormwater ordinances into compliance with the county's ordinance. And the county is offering a one-time grant program to first come, first serve on the money, to offer money to the different municipalities in the county to get some money to put towards legal fees for upgrading our stormwater ordinance. And so what you have is a copy of that grant application all filled out. I just need the approval to send it in.
I move to approve the submission of the grant application for a stormwater ordinance. HRG did this? Question mark?
Yeah, we both.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the motion as I have it, Vice President Jones, you tell me if I got it correctly. Motion to approve the submission of the stormwater ordinance grant
I
application.
think we should say to. To whom?
Allegheny County, right?
To Allegheny County.
Allegheny County Municipal Grant Program. Act 67.
Okay, motion to approve the submission of the stormwater ordinance grant application to Allegheny County.
Bingo.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? Okay, you just want to do it tonight, don't you?
I don't normally like to. I like to wait, but I'd like to just get it in since the money's first come, first serve.
Okay.
It's $2,000, is that what?
Yes, up to 2,000.
Okay, so that's a good, typically we defer these things for 1 week and seek public feedback. We've always taken an exception to that rule when there is some need for urgency. And you're saying that the need for urgency here is that the grant money is first come, first serve. So if we delay for a week, we may miss out on the money. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so then I don't hear a subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week. Okay, then we are voting on the main motion, which is to approve the submission of the stormwater ordinance grant application to Allegheny County. Everybody understand that you're voting on the actual motion and not a motion to defer?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, that motion carries 4-0. That will not appear on next week's agenda. That is done.
Sorry.
Okay. New business. Wildflower proposal from Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly, step forward and ye shall be heard.
Thank you. Last fall, I became aware of and concerned about information coming out of Germany that their research indicated they had lost 75% of their flying insect species in their nature reserves. Since then, and the article that I supplied to Gwen from the L360 indicates that this is a worldwide phenomenon. We're losing species, and it dovetails with, and this is no secret, we're living in the middle of a mass extinction, losing species at 1,000 times the background rate. So rather than just sit there and let it happen, I looked around the manor and said, well, why don't we put in some wildflower, right? See if we can push back against this. So I approached the board with the idea of a pilot project, a limited number of small plots to see how this works. Eventually, I would hope to expand it across the manor, make it much larger, provide some wildflower habitat for pollinators and other insects. What I need from you, very simply, is permission to put 1 or 2 of these plots near the roads because they fall under your jurisdiction. I have a couple of places I supplied. Okay. Let me give you, this is apparently all the information. Let's see. What have we got here? Shows the locations that we looked at. Primarily, we're concerned with getting full sun, which is defined by, and strictly defined by 6 hours a day. So, trying to find places that have full sun. And George, I know in previous conversations, road salt and access to water were concerns, but according to the seed companies I've talked to, which are Ernst and American Meadows, as long as we plant it in the fall, we're in good shape. We don't have to worry about it. Access to water is not necessarily a problem. Road salt, they throw these things out by roads everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I think we can, as far as the pilot project is concerned, I think we can roll the dice and see what happens.
Who's paying for this, Tim?
We are.
Who's we?
Landscape committee's going to foot the bill for some of the supplies, and I know some of the volunteers. I have to say, well, I don't have no problem with. You know, it's ridiculously cheap actually because you get a pound of seed for $37.
I'm trying to figure out where. Yeah, where am I? Where is this?
Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay, this is across. This is the road that leads to the ridge. This is Judy Haluka's residence here, and this is Swickley Heights Manor Drive or Swickley Heights Drive. This is the tail end of the islands here where the forested area is here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So where do you want to use the islands?
Right where it tapers down, where the last tree grows is an area in there that gets full sun and is wide enough and deep enough.
I'm coming down.
Where you want to do this?
Can you show us?
I'm coming down Swickley Heights Drive.
Right here.
I got you.
And then right here, okay, below that last tree.
You know what? Let's do. Watch this. Oh yeah.
So Tim, I'm coming down Swickley Heights Drive.
Yes.
Have I gone past Swickley Ridge Drive?
No, the first one is right there where it turns, where Judy Lucas' house is.
Watch this, George.
Right across the street.
Just everybody, let's just take a breath.
Across the street from the guy that parks the big bus in his driveway.
Yeah, exactly.
That across the guy from van before you get to Judy's?
That's
Swickley Heights.
Right there.
That's Swickley Heights.
That's not in Aleppo, but I'm sure they wouldn't care.
It's Swickley Heights.
I'm joking.
Judy, to remind me that I need your permission in order to carry that. We may use it, we may not. We have other
It's Swickley Heights.
Yeah.
That property is Swickley
Here we go.
Heights.
Do we all see where we are here? So this is Swickley Heights Drive that we're coming down here.
Right.
And you're going to turn left and go down Swickley Ridge Drive.
Right there across from
You're talking about right here?
Yeah, right in that clear spot.
Okay, that is Swickley Heights.
Oh, that's Swickley Heights.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aleppo starts over here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, we can skip over that. We have like 7 or 8 candidate spots that we can use.
No, they'll be fine.
I don't think Swickley Heights would care.
They'll be fine.
Yeah,
isn't this really wooded here, though?
I wasn't aware that wasn't in your jurisdiction, so I apologize for that.
Have you talked to Fern Hollow about this?
They might like that.
I have. And they sent me off to April, who sent me off to, I started this back in February when I was all laid up.
I don't think anybody would object to this, but it's just, that's not our property.
Right.
Timothy, isn't this right here very wooded?
Well, we're not talking about large.
We're talking about this little grassy area.
Less than 100 square feet.
This little thing right here.
Just the grassy area.
They're right to the right of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that area, because I don't want to have to mess with one calls if I don't have to.
Okay.
It's ironic that you say it needs full sun, but right here in this picture it's shady.
Well, yeah, it gets full, it's southern exposure. So it's gonna get full sun. I was there 10:30 in the morning and it was well illuminated.
Okay. Well, that's not ours, so we can't give you that permission. But where else did you
Right.
say you wanted to look?
Go down Squiggly Heights Drive, further south.
Do.
Okay, right about there where it tapers down, where the last tree sits.
Down in
You
here.
know, there's no asphalt underneath that.
Down in
You're
here?
going
Is that where you're talking about?
Yeah, just approximately, yes.
Is that where the bench is?
It's further, yeah, it's down.
The
It's
bench-
below the turnaround.
It's the end of the first island.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really skinny there. There's not much there on the grass.
You know, we don't need a whole lot of space and we're doing this on volunteer. We're gonna.
And Swiftly Heights Manor homeowners is in favor of this?
Yes. They
And
turned
I'm
it
sure
over.
Judy is actively involved.
Yes. So is Mike Kaiser. Mike's got my candidate pictures and all
So I say-
all the other data.
Bravo,
They're gonna come back. And I sent samples off to Penn State Lab for analysis.
bravo.
All right. So, Vice President Jones, do I interpret your bravo as a motion to approve?
I move to allow the planting of wildflower seeds on the first island beyond Sewickley Ridge Drive on Sewickley Heights Drive by, who's doing this?
Myself and a few volunteers from the community.
By an approved volunteer group,
Let's just say by community volunteers.
by community volunteers,
That works.
period.
The motion is motion to allow the planting of wildflower seeds on the first island beyond Sewickley Ridge Drive on Sewickley Heights Drive by community volunteers.
Now Gwen has in her email, complete species list plus images from Earthsea
I
on
saw
what this
those,
will
yeah.
look like. So we're hoping.
good.
I have
So we're cool.
some questions though about long-term, like maintaining it, because I mean, that's part of our project. We could easily put grass down and it would be like, you know, low maintenance kind of thing. If you put flowers down in that area, you know, over the years, just gonna keep, you know,
Wildflower meadow,
It'll just keep
traditionally,
going
once you get
and-
it going, it doesn't need anything.
okay, all right.
You know, it will, once it gets started and it crowds out the native weeds and it'll just be there. I have a couple of friends up in Bowlesburg next to State College, have beautiful wreaths of wildflowers. in there.
I've seen like DOT do it in different areas. It looks really nice on the highway, so I just wanted to know what the long-term
I mean,
plan was.
like I said, it's a pilot project, so if it goes south, we just turn it back into lawn, as
Okay.
much as I'm loath to do so, but
Okay,
give it a
Yeah.
shot.
great idea.
Would you be comfortable, like, putting a maintenance on all that? No, just leave it.
Only because if there's a problem, the residents of Sewickley Heights Manor will be the first to notify us. And they have a policy that if you plant something, even though it's on our property, and it doesn't look good, if you don't fix it, they remove it.
So,
So there's kind of a policy in place.
Okay,
great.
all right, well, good.
All right. So the motion on the table is a motion to allow the planting of wildflower seeds on the first island beyond Sewickley Ridge Drive on Sewickley Heights Drive by community volunteers. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion with respect to the main motion? All right. In turn, I will make a motion to defer the main motion for 1 week.
Second,
There's a second to the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week. Is there any further discussion with respect to the subsidiary motion to defer for 1 week? Okay, hearing none, we're going to vote on the subsidiary motion to defer the main motion for 1 week. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed say no. That motion carries. This is deferred for 1 week, and we will have that on the agenda next week.
Okay, so I will be here next week, get the result.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you,
Nice
Mr.
meeting
Kelly.
You can watch this on TV.
you.
I
Is there-
prefer FaceTime. It's so rare these days.
Is there any other new business?
Yes.
Thank you, folks.
Yes,
Tim,
sir.
Thank you.
Tim, don't
Yes.
leave. Just in relation to this, to some extent, do we have a date for the beginning of the paving? The intent of the contractor for the paving is to have it done before the school buses come. So it could be any old time now, and for that's going to be a major disturbance. So don't be planting until they're done, obviously.
Wait till they put this tar down and
When's
the
this
new
gonna
curb.
happen, George?
Next month, in the next month sometime.
It will be finished before the school buses run.
I was hoping to get these guys under plastic
No,
and get them sterilized
Bad
before
idea.
the end of the month.
bad idea.
Okay, we may have to.
Because
I'm glad we have this as a contingent.
Swickley Heights Manor is going to be completely replaced. There's going to be
Swickley Heights
grinding
Drive,
of the
Swickley Heights
existing,
Drive.
I'm sorry, Swickley Heights Drive. So I would not be planting before that's done.
All right, we'll have to find some places off the drive then. But
And number-
it's in our back pocket.
And
We
number
need it.
two, a similar subject, not directly related, but Public Works, myself, and somebody from the manor are meeting with residents at the end of Swickley Heights Drive tomorrow at 10 o'clock to discuss the removal of trees and the replacement of those trees with trees that they will agree to pay for above and beyond our budget.
I thought it was one tree we were removing.
It is one tree that,
Okay.
but there seems to be a discussion that the residents up there want another tree removed, which is simply under discussion.
Okay.
And then they would like to complement our plantings. I think we have $800 in the budget, tree planting,
I thought it was 600.
in the bid, whatever it is.
The line item, I think, was wrong there.
We're going to talk to them about, because they planted trees themselves before at their own expense. So we're just going to think about what would look pretty up there and discuss it with our Public Works. Bob Merriman from Swickley Heights Manor is coming. So somewhat similar.
Thank you, folks.
All right.
Good night.
Any other new business? Citizen participation. We answered all your questions. All right. I have a email to read. And I suspect the answer is going to be that Gwen and I will deal with this later. But this came in while we were meeting, so I wanted to read it. Hi, Matt. Is there someone at the township you could contact after hours about the alarm going off at the pumping station on Rockledge Drive? Rick went to the township office today because it had been going off 24/7 since Thursday. They sent someone to turn it off late this afternoon, but it started again. Any help you can have is appreciated. The building is across from our house, so it's been loud for sleeping.
The best I can do is contact Bill Davis Jr. again. It's been going off. He's been getting alarms. He's been going back. So I think there's some kind of reprogramming that needs to happen.
The storm done it.
Yeah.
The storm did it.
So someone, I don't know who it was, unless someone named Rick came in today, and Tim and I were here and we talked to him about it, and we went out, came home, he came from home, went back out, checked it, and then I guess the fix isn't holding. I think there's a wire or something that's off. So I'm sure he's probably called in a repair, but you can't turn it station off.
Okay. So
I don't know that there will be, if the alarm, if he goes over there, works on it, and then something keeps getting tripped, I'm sure he's on top of it because he doesn't want to keep getting the alarm calls and have to go out there. So
right.
I don't know that there's a solution tonight, certainly not. But I can follow up and find out if he's waiting for a different repair person to come in.
Okay. Would you do that, please? All right. Anybody else? Once, twice? We're adjourned. See you next week. Thank you all.